Hello everybody and welcome back to the Restricted View podcast. As ever, I am Chris.
And I am Deborah.
Hope you're all doing very well. We had said we were hoping to do a see two shows last weekend. Unfortunately, we only managed to see one of them because one of them has temporarily closed due to a COVID complication.
Yeah, it's been happening more and more in the theatre, and I think that's just a kind of a new reality now.
Yeah.
Sometimes shows will shut.
Yeah, hopefully not a new reality for too long. Like
Hope
not a new normal. Hopefully, but yeah, because Hairspray I know closed for a while. We actually had tickets to go back and see Hairspray a second time. They were cancelled. We had booked them through Today Tix. The one good thing is Today Tix give you a 10% boost to the value of your voucher when they refund you.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
And Bach and Sons has temporarily closed as well. And I know Mischief Movie Night In was cancelled for tonight.
Yes, they're probably waiting for a result if it was just cancelled for tonight. So if once they have the result confirmed, they might have to cancel for other performances. I'm not sure how it works.
Hopefully not.
I'm not quite sure how all this works, and I'm not quite confident that anyone is. We are all kind of plowing through the way as best we can.
No. Although theatres are officially now completely reopen,
Yes.
as in full capacity, etc.
As of today,
Yes.
as you listen to us.
Exactly. So we'll be seeing our first show with such. Hopefully later this week. Hopefully on Tuesday or so this week, we're going to go back to see the show that we didn't get to see last weekend. And we'll let you know, I guess, how that goes, how it feels.
And I know that some theatres will still require masks.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how things will work for every theatre, so we can always update you as we find out as well. I think Chris and I probably intend to keep wearing them. I know I do, at least for the foreseeable. And let's see how we get on.
Absolutely. And but we did manage to go see one of the two shows we wanted to see, and that's going to be our review today in our From the Cheap Seat section. We also have our news section this week as kind of almost kind of two updates on two older pieces of news. So
just revisiting some news and kind of looking and some news about the news.
Yeah, there's some news. And then we have our tip section is actually going to be it's sort of related to one of our news sections as well. It's going to be
to the review.
And to the review, yes, very true. Yeah, I hadn't realised that. And it's a deep dive. It's another theatre deep dive. And then we're also going to have a discussion section, as ever, in our Far Too Many Notes section, where we're going to discuss one particular aspect of theatre. So without any further ado, let's get straight on to our news.
So as Chris mentioned, we are going to look back to some of our news because we have more news about those news we talked about. So it kind of makes sense to...
News about the news.
Yes, talk about them a little bit again. And the first one being is actually an update on last week's news, which was about everybody's talking about Jamie. And the fact that we didn't know what was going to go in that theatre after Jamie paused for a while. And now we do. So
a whole lot of theatre swapping shenanigans going on.
Yes,
So
there's a lot of swapping.
So we're very confused because obviously Magic Goes Wrong it wasn't the Vaudeville, was going to go back into the Vaudeville, but then Six announced last week that it was going to transfer to the Vaudeville,
and it's kind of it's home now. So I assume it's going to be there for a while.
It said we're taking up residency in the Vaudeville, so everyone was like, "What's happening with Magic? What's going on?"
Everyone was very confused, and then later on in the week, it was announced that Magic Goes Wrong is going to actually now go to the Apollo Theatre.
Yes, because the space has been opened up by Jamie, pausing temporarily.
Yes. So do we have all the dates?
Yes. So okay, the very first thing that's happening is that. Jamie is closing on. It's pausing, as we mentioned. It's pausing in the Apollo Theatre on the 26th of September, and then Six is opening in the Vaudeville Theatre, which currently is showing Constellations, on the 29th of September. So Six is transferring for residency at the Vaudeville on the 29th of September. Magic Goes Wrong is not going back there. Magic Goes Wrong is reopening on the 21st of October in the Apollo, Jamie's old theatre. Now this, as you might notice, this little circle, because Jamie's not reopening until 2021.
2022.
Sorry, 2022, beg your pardon. We lost a year. That means the Lyric Theatre now has a vacancy. So the Lyric Theatre is allegedly, seeming from the research we've done, it seems like it is going to stay vacant until October, which is actually only a month or so. It's the 20th of October when Get Up, Stand Up, the Bob Marley musical is going to open there, apparently, which is not something I know anything about.
No, and it was meant to have opened last year, it looks like. And it's now opening, obviously. Not last year, sorry, beginning of 2021. And now it's opening in October.
Yeah, so that's basically the reshuffle. 6 is going to be at the Vaudeville from the 29th September. Magic Goes Wrong is going to be at the Apollo from the 21st of October. Get Up, Stand Up, the Bob Marley musical is going to open in the Lyric Theatre from the 20th of October this year. And everybody's talking about Jamie is on temporary hiatus until sometime next year.
Yeah, and it does sound as it is as complicated as it sounds. We had to make notes of this because it's very hard to keep track of what's where at any given time.
But they're all going to be in London, so
yes, that's the good news.
Just come to London, you'll find them. The other thing we wanted to briefly update people about was I think the very first episode ever we talked about Today Ticks and how great Rush tickets are, and the only show that had returned with Rush tickets for at that time was 6. And we speculated and hoped that many more would return, and even faster than I expected.
Yes.
They have done so.
Yes.
So we want to give you a full update on the shows that actually have Rush tickets available now. Some of them are £20, some are £25. We'll mention that as we go along. But yeah, the Rush tickets, that's on Today Ticks. If you missed that first episode, best tip we could ever give you. Actually, it might be the second episode. If you missed the episode, Amy, Today Ticks, getting Rush tickets is absolutely fantastic. At 10 a.m. every morning, if for a show, for a production that participates in these Rush tickets, you can go on the app. They're only available on the app. Today Ticks do have a website where you can buy tickets, but the Rush tickets are only available on the app. They go on sale at 10 a.m. If it's a popular show, they sell out at 10:004 seconds, and if it's a not a very popular show, they sell out at 10:02. Yes. And if it's a really unpopular show, they sell out at 10:10. So
yeah, I was going to say 10 past 10, exactly.
Once in a blue moon, you can come back at 5 p.m. and someone will have returned one, and you can snag one. It is possible,
yes.
But for the most part, they are gone at 10.
Yes, the main difference now from before the pandemic is that you can only book 2 tickets together.
Yes,
and that's actually,
2, right?
Actually my friend was complaining about this, that she couldn't just book a single ticket. So that's something they should probably...
She can just go with you, it's fine.
Yeah, I know, I told her that. But yeah, so that's something to be aware of. I don't know how to change the number of tickets, and I don't think it's possible for Rush tickets at this time.
No, you can't. They have actually. I've seen them publicize the fact that they are only selling in pairs
yes,
at present.
Hopefully, and I'd say this might change now as restrictions ease. This will change, but we'll see. So shall we start? Chris started us off with 6. So 6 is the first one. That's £25 each for the Rush tickets. Those ones are like to get a Rush ticket for 6 is like spotting a unicorn in the wild.
Yeah.
It's super difficult, but it is possible, and do keep trying. Sometimes just keep the app open for 5 to 10 minutes after 10, because people do return them, or sometimes they keep them in their baskets and then the time expires and they haven't purchased them, so you have the chance to do it. That's how I got our tickets when we saw 6. And do try, because it is possible, even though very, 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 very difficult.
And 6 is very expensive to go and see, to buy tickets for, so it's a good one to get Rush tickets for.
Yeah, exactly. The other one is Bach & Sons, which the Rush tickets for that are £20. And they're also available now. That's at the Bridge Theatre. And then we also have Constellations. £25 for those.
The difficulty of getting Constellation tickets, there are 4 rotating casts for Constellations, and some casts are more popular than others. Yes. So some casts are actually relatively easy to get tickets for in the first 10 minutes or so. Others sell out at like 6 seconds.
especially on Fridays and Saturdays. Those are the most popular days.
That's another good point to make, actually. If you're going to try and get Rush tickets, the least popular night out it is, the better.
Exactly. Also, a matinee might work out for you.
Yes, really they do for matinees too. Very good point.
Yes. So we also have the Prince of Egypt, which is currently closed, I believe, because of a COVID situation.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yes, maybe they have opened already, but it was closed during last week.
Okay.
So yes, that's also
they're £25.
They're
each,
£25.
Right?
We also have Heathers, the musical, not with Kerry Fletcher this time, and I think this is important to highlight.
Yeah, it's well worth mentioning
because
that.
they do publicise her image quite a lot, but she's not in it anymore. She's doing Cinderella now.
I just want to mention that it's the 21st of July, it seems, that the Prince of Egypt is back up and running.
21st?
21st.
Okay, so on Wednesday then.
Yes, from what I can see. But yes, cool. and sorry for jumping back between Heathers and Prince of Egypt, just want to clarify that. And yes, Heathers does not feature Carrie Hope Fletcher. Stop asking her on Twitter.
Yeah, poor woman.
But it's a fun show. It's worth seeing.
It is a fun show, yes. So we also have, happily for me, Hairspray.
Yes. So we got our tickets refunded. As I said, due to because our performance was cancelled, our second time to see it was cancelled. So we're planning on hopefully grabbing rush tickets to go and see Hairspray for the second time, and instead using the voucher for something else, for a more expensive, for a show that doesn't have rush tickets, perhaps.
Yes, go check out our review of Hairspray. It's a few episodes back. Just scroll back and you'll find a review there. The episode's called "Don't You Can't Stop the Beat." Give us a listen.
Unsurprisingly,
yes. And very exciting to say that Anything Goes, which is opening for a very limited run, is going to
in the
get
Barbican.
In the Barbican, yes, it's going to get rush tickets. So
for £25, I'm very happy about this because we're planning on going to see it. We haven't booked our tickets yet. I'm glad we waited because the tickets for it seem to be jolly expensive.
Yes.
I don't know how popular the rush tickets for this one are going to be. It's opening later this week. I'm thinking we should try and get rush tickets for opening night if possible.
Yes, but I'm always hopeful that you'll get rush tickets. Like if there's
at some point, yeah.
Especially if there's two of you trying and you're a little flexible with your dates as well. If you're willing to try again next time.
Every time you have nothing on that evening, and let's face it, we have less and less on at the moment. Oh well, things are opening up again. But just keep trying. You'll eventually get it.
Come From Away is also getting rush tickets, and again, very happy about that because I would very much like to see it again.
£25. We've seen that a few times. We'll probably try and rush ticket our ways back to that, and maybe give you guys a review of the new cast.
We definitely will. Yes. Pretty Woman is also getting rush tickets. I believe that's at the Piccadilly Theatre. No, sorry, the Savoy Theatre. It was at the Piccadilly
Theatre,
at some point.
Yeah. And you have to walk down the street to get to it. That's get it? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's laughing. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the laughter. £25.
And lastly, but certainly not least, we have Les Mis, the concert version, which is also getting rush tickets. And I was actually very happy about that because Les Mis is usually a difficult show to get tickets for if you don't want to pay very much because you usually have to pay high prices to see Les Mis. So it'll be interesting now that we have rush tickets to be able to go back to it.
Bear in mind, this is the concert version.
Yes, at this time, it is still the concert version. I am very much looking forward to seeing the new, the full production.
We never saw the new. We've both seen the old West End production multiple times. We've never seen the new staging, which only briefly opened, I think.
Very briefly, yeah.
Because of COVID, closed down again. We saw the original. Not originally. We saw this stage concert back when it was in the Sondheim next. Sorry, not the Sondheim. Back when it was in the
Gielgud.
The Gielgud next door. Thank you. The Gielgud Theatre next door. We saw that with we didn't see Alfie Bow. But it was
Carrie Hope Fletcher herself, as we were talking about. Yes.
John Owen Jones. And Michael
Matt
Ball
Lucas.
Yeah, it was a great cast. We saw that. But the new cast is also apparently very good. So we're hoping to get rush tickets to go back and see that as well.
Definitely. Yeah, so since this is our take on the news, I believe this is, it'd be interesting just to mention, this is my personal view on this, on why shows that wouldn't usually have rush tickets, because I know a lot of shows did have rush tickets in the past, but shows like Les Mis didn't, for example. And I think
didn't, for example.
Phantom didn't, and hopefully it will. I think it should. And I'm hoping to see more shows listed as rush tickets. And I think this is because with COVID, traveling gets more restricted. It's harder to make plans because things can get cancelled last minute. And for that exact reason, it's easier to plan things last minute because you're well, you don't have any symptoms, or you're not sick, or you're not asked to self-isolate. And same goes for the cast. You know that they are not asked to self-isolate.
We haven't got tourists anymore.
That's also a good point.
And we probably don't even have as many domestic tourists.
Yes.
So the vast majority of the audiences right now are probably London residents like us.
Yeah, so people who live very in commutable distances from London. Yeah, so I think that's one of the reasons, and I am very much looking forward to seeing more shows added to this list.
I love rush tickets apps so much.
Yeah, rush tickets are the best. So yes, that's what we have for news today. It was a bit of a revisiting news and kind of mentioning all the new rush tickets. We'll definitely let you know if more are added to the list.
So on to our From the Cheap Seat section, which has yet another review. We have so many lists that we want to do, but unfortunately, we're seeing so many shows.
He was doing air quotes while he said, unfortunately, by the way.
Oh, no one
You
saw
can't
that.
see it.
Yes,
yeah.
fortunately, we're seeing too many shows. Well, not too many shows. Fortunately, we've seen lots of shows, and therefore we haven't been able to get around to our list. We will get around to them. There will no doubt be a review drought at some point when we've seen everything.
Is that ever possible? I don't know.
Probably not. But anyway, I'm sure at some point we'll have a week where we don't see a show. At some point.
It does happen.
It does happen. But anyway, so what we saw was, I mean, we've actually mentioned this show a couple of times over the course of the podcast already, because we mentioned the theatre it's in, and we also mentioned it as having rush tickets, and it is Constellations.
Yes, so Constellations is at the Vaudeville Theatre, and it opened in June, on the 18th of June, and it's going to run until the 12th of September. It is a shortish play. It's only 75 minutes or so.
Yeah, an hour and a quarter indeed. Yeah.
Yes, it was written by Nick Payne, and I believe it opened in 2012, I want to say.
Oh, did it? I thought it was a new show.
No, absolutely not. It was Jake Gyllenhaal, I believe, was in it before. I could be very wrong about this, but I think he was. Ruth Wilson was in it as well. It has had
Why is that name? Oh, Ruth Wilson from
Mrs. Coulter from
Mrs.
His Dark Materials. Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
She is fabulous. I love her. But yeah, so it's seeing lots of great names playing the main the leads, or the only parts, the only two actor play.
Mm-hmm.
And this time we have 4 different sets of actors doing the play. At the moment, we have Sheila Atom and Ivano Jeremiah, and I'm really sorry if I'm butchering your names.
That's who we saw, by the way.
That's who we saw. We also have Peter Capaldi and Zoe Wanamaker, the wonderful Zoe Wanamaker.
Yes, who we have seen before in a Pinter play.
We have, yeah.
She was very good. We've never seen Peter Capaldi on stage.
We have not.
They're hard. They're the ones that at the moment are hard to get tickets for. My guess is because of Peter Capaldi was the Doctor.
Yes, if you're the Doctor, you're going to be popular forever. That's
Exactly.
just what happens.
Wasn't one of my favourite Doctors personally.
But yesterday,
A lot of people did like him.
When we got rush tickets, there was a matinee performance that they were doing, and there were still tickets for the matinee performance before the evening one was gone.
But the night before,
that was not the case.
Basically, evening is more popular than matinee.
Yes.
So if you want to see the more popular of the two casts on the day, go on a day when the more popular cast is doing the matinee.
Yes, much easier to get rush tickets.
There's actually 3 performances on some days. So
on Saturdays.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
Saturdays.
yeah, and maybe on Sundays too. I'm not sure. So next up, there's gonna be Omar Douglas and Russell Tovey. I'm not sure. They're going to do the next couple, and then again, finally we have.
Yes, that's interesting enough. That's an all male cast.
Yes.
So they're changing the dynamic there.
Yes, and then we also have, lastly, Anna Maxwell Martin and Chris O'Dowd. Possibly, I was going to say the most famous, but maybe Peter Capaldi and Zoe Wanamaker are.
I think Peter Capaldi is possibly
equally
more famous than Chris. So Chris, I have to make a confession here. We've seen it now, as I said, with Sheila Atom. Is that right?
Yeah.
And Ivana Jeremiah. Already, but we plan to go back and see it again. Specifically, I mean, we might. I don't know. Part of me thinks maybe we'll go back and see Peter Capaldi and Zoe Wanamaker. Maybe.
I might want to see the two guys again because I want to see how different it is. This is
Zoe.
why they do lots of casts, because you want to go see them all.
I'm not a fan of this for this reason.
Yeah, well, you've got to keep that for the review.
But we are. This is the review.
Yeah, I know, but we're just announcing the cast.
I have a confession to make, which is, having spoken about stunt cast in the past, I would like to see Chris O'Dowd because I really like Chris O'Dowd.
Because he's Irish, that's why.
No, because first of all, T Crowd's very funny. Everyone loves T Crowd, but also people always tell me I sound like him.
You do it bad. You can do the heavy turn.
Oh, I can do the Roy accent very well, but people, my accent's being compared to. I don't hear it myself. I think when I get not emotional, but when I get
drunk.
When I get drunk or irate, I think I go quite Chris O'Dowd. But also, one of my favorite films ever, Calvary, he's in.
Oh yes, he's in that. Wow, yeah.
And I think
he plays a very different part from.
I was so impressed.
Roy.
I was so impressed with his acting range when I saw him in that.
Yeah,
because he's done like a lot of kind of rom-coms stuff, like Bridesmaids and stuff, right? Hasn't he?
Yeah.
And that's he's not really known as a serious actor, so to speak. But my God, he's a good serious actor.
Yeah,
he really is. And I'm a huge fan of his. Really like him. So so I you know, it's funny. At one point, I was kind of going through. When we were watching it last night, I was kind of going through in my head, imagining Chris O'Dowd saying the lines.
Oh, we have a fun boy. We have a fun boy.
I know I did it for Zoe Wanamaker as well.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. You
want to see Chris O'Dowd and Zoe Wanamaker? Anna Maxwell Martin
that'd be the
wonderful.
I don't know who she is. Who's
so
she?
you do know who she is because she's been in Would I Lie to You?
Okay.
She's done so many things. Death Comes to Pemberley is the one that comes to mind.
That.
I know, but she's a great actress.
Anyway, I'm interested to see if their cast is really popular, or because I don't know, Chris O'Dowd, despite being very famous, he's also kind of often very unknown. A lot of people go, who? And you'll be like, oh, the Irish guy from IT crowd. You're like, oh yeah, I like him.
Yeah, because I believe from IT crowd, people usually remember Richard Ayoade more than they do
because
here.
he's become very famous here domestically. He does a lot of chat shows, he hosts a lot of stuff, and all that, and he's on panel shows a lot. He's got loads of his own shows too, like his tech show and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Chris Dow went to America and kind of did a Hollywood thing, right? Which is kind of different, very.
Yeah. So
anyway,
Constellations has 4 casts. We don't know why that is.
It's to make you go more than once.
Yes, I think that's one of the reasons.
They have metally justified it with the
actual plot.
plot.
Yes, exactly.
Is metally a word?
It's worth mentioning, and I think we'll talk about these things. It's worth mentioning that, as we said, it was written by Nick Payne, directed by Michael Longhurst, and the set is by Tom Scott, lighting by Lee Curran, and sound by David McSeveny, I believe. And I'm sure we'll talk about all these things as they come along now in our review.
So the show basically depicts the meeting of 2 individuals. In this version we saw, and in 3 of the 4 versions, a man and a woman, but in 1 of the 4 versions, 2 men, at a barbecue. And they basically... okay. So, essentially, the plot explores the multiverse theory, or the many worlds theory. And how everything which I guess you need a basic understanding of it to understand the review I'm talking about. It's essentially the theory that every time you make a decision, every decision that you have made and haven't made, and every way that everything could play out does play out, and if you make a decision between having toast or eggs for breakfast, at that point there's a divergent. There's a splitting, and let's say you choose eggs. We've now another universe is created at that point where you actually chose toast, and it continues along its merry way. And therefore, there's lots of things to explore. This the DC universe explores this. Has multiverses. It's not a new concept or anything. But that's basically the idea of this, and therefore the idea is that at this barbecue they might hit it off, they might not hit it off, and they might go on a date, or they might go on one date, they might become a couple and get married, they might get split up, they might never split up,
and so on, as relationships go.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it basically lets us look at this couple and all the ways that their relationship possibly could blossom and flourish or crash and burn.
Yeah. I don't know that much about so I think there's a difference. So Chris and I, when we came out of the theatre, we talked a little bit about the play. We saved some for now, but we talked a little bit about it, and I don't think I know enough about the actual physics and the theory.
I don't know about the physics of it.
Even just the theory. Yeah, even just the multiverse theory in itself. I don't think I understand enough to question it, and I think you do understand more than I do about that.
I don't know whether I truly do or not. I don't know. I feel on a philosophical level, I certainly think I've explored the many worlds theory a bit more than you.
Yes, I believe so.
I personally wasn't massively keen on the way that they... So it's not incorrect or anything. I wasn't keen on how they... Was one thing that I thought was a bit incorrect. But the very first couple of scenes... Well, the first scene that's repeated is basically them saying, "Hello, nice to meet you. But why are you here? Oh, that's my wife over there, right?" So when in the universe where the man already has a wife, that's the end of the conversation. Mm-hmm. That's the end of their romance, right? And then we see a version where he doesn't have a wife. Now, already this has made a mistake as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the exploration of many worlds theory, because it's not a mistake as far as it still works, right? There is a universe that exists where he's at a barbecue
And he has a wife.
And he has a wife. And there's the universe where he doesn't have a wife and yet somehow also ends at that barbecue. I mean, technically, yes, because literally the whole point of Many Worlds Theory is literally every possible permutation has happened, including where I'm his dad.
Weird.
Possibly not. Maybe, I mean, probably. I don't know. I guess so. I guess, yeah, everything has to exist, right? Anyway, point is, but the problem with that is what they change is there's a huge. So in order for him to end up at that barbecue with a wife and without a wife, an enormous amount has to change prior to the start of the play.
Mm-hmm.
What I assumed they were going to do was show us them making different choices.
Yes.
And how the different things play out.
Yes. Even even not understanding the theory that well, I also expected the changes to be minor.
Minor, and not only minor, but also happening within the scenes.
Yes, exactly.
But they didn't. Yeah. They kept replaying the scene with previous stuff having been changed that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
And I don't really care for that, because it's basically we're not co-conspirators then in the change, mm-hmm. right? I want to see the scene play out where he's really shy, so he doesn't really know how to engage with her, and and it ends there. And then we see it where he plays it a bit more with more confidence, and then they actually engage with each other.
Yeah, or he says something stupid, and then she thinks he's a dummy, and she doesn't want anything to do with him. Or he's charming and lovely.
Or another one where he says the same stupid thing, but she takes it differently.
Takes it well,
because she had a different day. And she's in a better mood, right? This stuff.
Yeah.
I guess that would fall into the trap of the previous. But the point I'm making is, I wanted to see. Point I'm making is, I was really surprised when the first thing they do is give us two scenarios, one where he has a wife, one where he doesn't. Because yes, that still conforms to the Many Worlds theory, but it's not interesting to me to effectively be. What they're doing is they're signaling to me that many little decisions went differently 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, and it's led us to a different point. Basically, they're not actually replaying the same scene. Every time they snap back to a scene, the start of a scene, I want it to be exactly the same as it was when last time we started that scene. I want the change to be happening in front of me.
It's worth noticing that they keep snapping back to the beginning of the situation of that particular scene, and then we jump to a different scene in a different stage of their relationship, and then sometimes back. So time is also not linear. And
they have a very clever signaling of what they're doing. So they very early on established that the lights will have a complete fade to a complete blackout, and then immediate lights back up. Followed by a popping sound to reset the same scene, and when we're moving on to a new scene, the outside of the stage lights up, and we go to a partial blackout. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter what exactly they're doing if you can visualize what I'm saying there. They very clearly, visually and audibly signpost when it's a reset and when it's moving on.
Yeah, and even if you haven't, as an audience member, if you haven't really spotted exactly what's happening, you'll be able to tell what's about to happen.
Yes.
Because you just learn that this type of lighting means that they've moved to the future. This other type of lighting means they're redoing the scene, and so on.
And it's a credit to the sound and lighting effect and the partnership between those two departments that they managed to do that and achieve and make it so clear so early. And you don't need even if you don't know that that's what even if you don't realize that that's what's being told to you, you will still
will understand it. Yeah,
exactly,
in some level. Shall we talk about these kind of more technical things then before we go into the actual meat of the play?
If you like, yeah.
Yeah. So as someone who is I'm not trained in theatre or anything, I kind of just look at it and think, oh, that's pretty, and that's what I thought of the stage. Wow, I love balloons. That's pretty.
Yes, the stage is lots of balloons.
It's lots of balloons, and it is very, very striking visually. I think it's a stage I'll remember, forevermore. Like it's like I remember having seen that stage. It's beautifully done, and I kind of. They use the balloon for the sound effect as well, with the popping sounds, like the balloons are popping, and then sometimes when you get to scenes that are depicting the end of their I'll call it the end of their relationship, but it doesn't necessarily mean they split up. It's just for the purposes of this, you have balloons actually falling.
Yeah, well, that do you interpret that as being when things were going wrong?
Yeah.
So I don't think so.
Right. Okay.
Because things were going wrong. Because if that was true, then it should have happened in the very first scene as well.
Yeah.
What it actually was. It was as we were building to the climax.
Mm-hmm.
It started happening every time, and I assumed it was going to ultimately
Everything was going
end
to fall
in a total pop. And I remember thinking to myself towards the end, they're all going to pop. Interesting. They have to reset this up every night, but no, they didn't.
They didn't.
And I was super disappointed with that.
Really?
So disappointed. The ending really disappointed me. I was hoping for a catastrophic ending where all the balloons popped.
I was okay. Yeah, I was not thinking they were gonna pop it. I was thinking they were gonna go to the floor. Which is kind of
that'd be
the
fine.
same effect.
That would have been fine.
No, I agree. I was also expecting a visual effect because it's so visually striking when the curtain
and they build up to it, then don't give it to you.
Yes, that is very true.
Which is strange.
So I think we kind of all compliments on like the sound and light design because I think that is
most of the balloons are actually seem to be actually helium balloons. In fact, one of them seemed to be deflating slightly and came down low during our performance during the show we saw. But most of them are actual balloons. I'm assuming some of them are on the ground, and even possibly some in the air at the beginning are actually hard glass or plastic because they were lighting up. There were some lights. There
were some balloons. There were just regular balloons that were actually attached to the ceiling.
Yeah.
So they were hanging from the ceiling on their own. So it looks.
I think some balloons were actually lights disguised as balloons.
Absolutely. Yes. No, I am sure
really
of that.
Cool. It was very cool.
It was very cool, and the sound was great. They didn't use microphones.
No.
The actors, and for us, so this is the cast we saw. As we said, and for me especially at first, I thought they weren't loud enough.
No, they weren't.
I got used to
the first thing I thought as well.
So this is interesting because, and if you are not a native English speaker, you might relate to this. Sometimes I'm just like, am I not understanding this because it's not my first language?
Volume,
well, I know, but sometimes I think I might need more volume because I need it to be clearer, right?
Sure.
I don't think it was the case. I think they could have been louder than they were.
No, they absolutely should have been. And it's actually quite. Look, I mean, I can't mince words here. It's unacceptable. The actors need to speak loud enough. We were sitting in the middle of the dress circle.
Yeah, the seats were wonderful. They were amazing seats, and row E of the dress circle, very center.
But the most basic thing that an actor has to do is be heard. The absolute most basic thing, and it's really not acceptable, and it's not good enough. And I'm very surprised that it actually got to that point. And I'd like to make the point that as part of my work, I have occupational health hearing tests every couple of years usually. And I had one. I had one the last year. I have perfect hearing.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have perfect hearing.
I thought it could have been louder, and I think a reflection of that is that obviously people wearing masks, you can't quite tell, but I noticed that the sound of laughter when jokes were made came much more from the stalls than it came from the dress circle. So maybe because things were landing better because obviously it was louder, it was just clearer, right? Maybe I misinterpreted what happened. But yeah, so I think from that perspective they could have been louder.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so we're moving on to the cast, I guess now. But I quite liked the cast. I thought they were both very good. But
they had great chemistry as well.
My God, speak louder! It's not acceptable.
Yes, you do get used to it.
If I was your director, I would not be casting you if you can't speak loud enough. It's like I just need it to be clear that that's not good enough. Speak loud enough that the entire audience can hear you. It actually winds me up hugely. That's just not good enough.
That's fair enough. Yes, I do think you get used to the sound, to the level of sound, but I agree it should have been louder, especially like if you working with people who are not whose ears are not as perfect.
That's what I'm saying. I do genuinely have perfect hearing for a person my age. Unless it deteriorated enormously in the last 10 months or so. And I struggled. I mean, my mum wears hearing aids.
Yeah.
Like, how would she handle this? Like, it's not good enough.
Yeah, but they were great. I actually really liked them. I think they played into the comedy and the tragic comedy of their situation really nicely. They had great chemistry, the two of them. And I think that Interestingly, I think that's again one of the reasons why they have different casts, because now I want to see the others and see how they play the same moments, because I have read that they do it that it's different for Peter Capaldi and Zoe Wanamaker, that they land on different things.
Yeah, well, they're a much older couple.
They are an older couple, so the tension, the climatic kind of tension of the play will land differently, surely.
Yeah, I mean, it's also going to mean it's the various kind of points of their life that we see into are going to be very different for someone in their 50s or 60s than someone in their 20s or 30s.
Yes, but they were very believable and very natural. The people we saw, the actors we saw, Sheila, Atom, and Ivano Jeremiah, they were very good. If they have to be louder.
They have to be louder, and I'm afraid ultimately I can't say they were good because they weren't speaking loud enough.
Okay,
there's no point in having there's no point in painting the Mona Lisa and then hiding it behind a curtain.
Yeah, I was wondering where that analogy was gonna go.
I know. I like my analogies, but I don't think I knew that one was going when I started. But yeah, so we've discussed. Okay, yeah. So the cast ultimately, if they speak loud, it's basically if they speak louder, they will be pretty damn good. But until they speak louder, they're actually very, very bad.
Okay, I'm not as extreme as Chris.
It's a switch. It's a switch. You can't you have to. And I said there are people in the audience who can't hear as well as us. Like it's a switch. It's they're doing everything right, but they're apart from one basic thing which they are failing at so badly. Like which is just So they'll be good when they sort out their volume. Light and sound we discussed.
Do you want to talk about the set?
We did, didn't we?
We talked a bit about the set. Yeah.
I mean the balloons are the other thing. The floor of the set is hexagons. Which I assume is some pointless reference to the fact that the man is a beekeeper.
Oh.
But it seems pointless.
I hadn't made any.
I really don't. It's one of two things. It's one of these two things going on. Either it is a reference to that, which is completely pointless, and I don't understand. I actually really don't like when shows do this and just make random references like, "Oh, he's a beekeeper. Let's make it hexagons." Because why? Or it's not a reference to that, and nobody noticed that they were accidentally referencing it, and that's what people were going to think. So either way, it was a mistake.
I didn't think anything of it, but yes, okay. That's fair.
Because I spent a good while the first 5 minutes looking at the hexagons, being like, is this significant?
It's a very minimalistic stage in many ways, even though there are
yet there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, yeah, which is good. It's something I like seeing. It's very different.
Yeah.
Agreed. So yes. Shall we move on then to the actual nitty gritty of the
play?
I
guess so. I mean, I already briefly discussed this about the kind of multiverse idea and how I don't personally like the way it tackled it. I mean, it kind of made me realize that kind of the only real medium that can accurately explore multiverse is video games, video game narratives, because then they actually let you make different choices and play out the consequence of your choices. BioShock Infinite's the game that probably springs to mind most of all. Exploring the many worlds theory. That's kind of what actually put me onto it, made me interested in it, and why I've subsequently researched it a bit. I don't think it really fits a play very well. It's a fascinating topic and it's a fascinating theory. But I don't really understand. I don't really know what this play was trying to do with it was just, I mean, so the most interesting thing, I guess, the thing I guess maybe it was trying to do is the thing I really liked most about it was kind of exploring the concept of how we're all capable of everything. So something I remember my drama teacher once telling me, who I've referenced some things to tell me before, was that he doesn't like the phrase "add a character." And I still use the phrase "add a character" in everyday life. I even use it in to refer to characters in fiction sometimes, because I think it has a place. But I now kind of use it to mean something unexpected of their normal demeanor, where rather than it's something that I would whereas most people kind of use it to mean something they're kind of not capable of, right? It's something unbelievable, unbelievable of them to do. And kind of what he was trying to say is basically that's ridiculous. Everyone is capable of everything, given the right circumstances.
And if you think about it, it's not out of character if it's well developed and explained, even if it's not something that you thought the character was going to do in the first minute of the show.
Exactly. So it's not. So it's. I still use it to mean, as I said,
Of course,
that was
yeah.
a character. So I know, like you snap at me at a time when I over something silly. I'm like, that's obviously that's out of character. Deborah doesn't usually snap, but
Yeah.
I don't mean it's unrealistic or unbelievable
Of
for
course,
her
yeah.
to do it. But
Yeah.
most people do mean that. So the point I'm making is, the scenes do play out very differently sometimes. There's one point at which and only one point at which one of the characters is violent. You never see any hint of him being violent at any other point
Yeah.
or afterwards, and it's never referenced. You don't see the fallout from that either.
No.
And I quite liked, so I wonder, I would be curious to know if people thought that seemed out of character. I quite liked the fact that it kind of dispels that idea, the idea of being out of character is a foolish thing basically to say.
Yeah, because I think for me, and then I think goes into how I felt about it, because I don't know a lot about the multiverse kind of theory. To me, it was mostly, and even though it's referenced in the actual play, the actual dialogue references this idea of multiple worlds. To me, it was actually exactly about the multitude that we contain in ourselves, and how multiple and different we can be, and how people have the potential to be so different.
And the many worlds theory is essentially just a representation of that.
Yeah, it's kind of just
it's just saying that all those things exist.
Yeah, and they're all, and you're
Concurrently.
kind of capable of all of them, but circumstance.
But you only experience one.
Exactly, circumstance, or like anything will affect the way you experience certain things and the way you react to those things. So I did like very much that aspect of it, and seeing these different scenes play out in the way they meet, and then when they meet again after a while of not having seen each other, and how it works. I don't want to give it too much away, but it's I enjoyed seeing that, and kind of I guess putting myself in that place and kind of thinking, oh, had I said something different, things could have gone differently. It's just. I think it makes you think about your own life and the choices you've made. And I'm not talking about big choices. I'm talking about very small choices of, going for drinks with your friends, or not going for drinks with your friends, and how that's going to affect the rest of your day and potentially your life. And I think that's what it's asking you to look to consider.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. That's a good point. I think that probably is actually what it's the main kind of the main point of the show is, main point of the story, and the main thought. Provocation. It's main thought provocation. I think that's probably fair. What the only issue I kind of took with them their interpretation of many worlds theory is at one point she talks about, because she's a theoretical physicist, isn't she?
I believe so.
And she talks about she tries to explain it, which I kind of found a bit annoying in a way. I was like, I guess you have to a bit. Well, do you have to explain it, or can we just expect the audience to understand that we're seeing the same thing play out in different ways? I don't know. Anyway, she kind of does but either way she does a really what's the word when you explain the plot to someone, when a character explains the plot.
Exposition.
Yeah, she gives an exposition where she explains many worlds theory, but she as far as I can tell, there's a weird mistake where she references the fact that free will may or may not exist. That's another philosophy which I find very interesting. I've looked into a lot, and I won't tell you where I landed on it. But the point is, if free will doesn't exist, and there's compelling arguments that it doesn't, then the multiverse theory falls apart, because we're only going to play because then no matter how many times you play it out, you'll play it out the same way. And she kind of says the opposite. Mm-hmm. Which I found really weird. Mm-hmm. For the multiverse, the many worlds theory requires free will, and then she hypothesizes that free will might not exist, but she believes in multiverse. So I didn't really understand that. It kind of concerned me that maybe the writer didn't fully understand the many worlds interpretation. But he did extensive research into it.
Yeah.
Either that or there's some way that maybe my research is falling short, and that you can have free will. So you can have no free will and yet many worlds. I don't understand how that would work.
It's beyond me. I think at this point, maybe one day I'll know more about it.
I don't think it's an issue that's going to I don't think it's an issue for most audience members. I think most audience members are going to be absolutely fine with it. Yeah. They will understand it to the level they need to. I think it's only people like me who have already had a significant interest in the many worlds theory and in free will. I'm an amateur philosopher, shall we say, and also only people like me who have that interest and have also arrived at the same conclusions, I guess, that I've arrived at.
Yes, it's also that. It's not only
Exactly,
reading about it, but also thinking the same way you do.
People who've read, maybe people who have researched philosophy to the exact same degree that I have, and no more and no less, might be confused somewhat by the philosophy presented in this show.
And that might be me in a different world.
But
it's not in this
yes,
world.
Indeed. But you have reframed it a little bit by talking about kind of the saying the way the thought provocation is meant to be, making you think about these little choices and how it impacts these things around you. I think you're right. I think that's it. I think that kind of makes me look a bit more favourably upon it than I possibly was beforehand. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it is very moving at times. If I'm completely honest, I think I expected more.
I think I did too.
From the actual kind of climax of it, and the way, and the kind of like the relationship, and I think that's possibly because one of the things you mentioned, the fact that we don't see a lot of where the change in decisions come from, and nor do we see where it goes. We only see we only see the actual change in behavior rather than where it came from and where it leads to.
Yeah, so I think it ultimately falls a bit like I said. I think the set is great, but the set falls a little bit short of its potential by not having that great climax of all the balloons popping or falling. I think the plot also is good, but then, or the core concept is good, but then also falls a bit short of its potential in the set, exactly the same way. Yeah.
So I know that I have to say it. I know that we don't do star reviews.
Yeah, we don't, which means so that's why I'm not going to give it a star review, of course.
No, but if you were to do a star review, do you know an answer? That's why star reviews are so hard, because you have to pinpoint. Even though you've been hearing us talk about it for nearly half an hour now, and when we try to pin it down to a number, it feels unfair.
It does feel fair. I think unfortunately, so it's only an hour and a quarter.
Yes.
Same as 6. Therefore, you're getting less value for money. Because just
fair point.
The actors weren't talking loud enough. I think I could potentially end up giving this with the cast being better. Not with the same cast, but just doing a better job.
Yeah, because they were good. They just need to be louder.
Or alternatively, just with one of the other casts.
Yeah.
I could potentially see myself giving this 3.5 stars.
Okay.
I could potentially see it even going to 4 if things landed for me a bit better, which could be done potentially with another cast. I think the show we saw last night was a 3-star performance. However,
I wholeheartedly agree with the 3-star for last night.
Yeah.
I would also give it a 3 stars. I don't know how much it could change, to be very honest with you. Maybe it could. I don't know. I'm very sensitive, and I very much kind of like I enjoy sadness, and I enjoy kind of the catharsis of sadness in melancholy in theatre and in fiction in general. And I expected more, not necessarily, don't get me wrong, not sadness. I didn't want necessarily to be sad, but I expected to be more moved than I was, and I don't know how to quantify or explain that. And I wanted, I guess, a little more from it. So I'll see. I'm sure we'll see it again, and then I'll have a different experience.
Yeah, we probably will see it again with another cast. But let us know what you guys thought of Constellations. What cast did you see? And
or would you see if you could choose?
Indeed, and will you go back and see it more? Will you see it more than once? Head over to Instagram restricted.view. Give us a comment and let us know what you thought of Constellations.
So tying in with our review of Constellations, today our tip is going to be about the Vaudeville Theatre itself.
Also ties in a little bit with our news that 6 is going to be in the Vaudeville after Constellations.
This episode's just like all tied in.
It's all about the Vaudeville.
So yes, 6 is now going to be resident at the Vaudeville from September, I believe, as we said.
September 29th.
And there's been some controversy over this fact, because the Vaudeville is not very accessible.
So there's also some controversy over the way Deborah pronounced the word controversy. Yeah.
It's so funny.
I say controversy. Do you say controversy? I never knew that about you.
Yeah, this is a defining mark of my personality and character. The way I say this word.
Exactly. I'll judge you for more. Yes. So there is some controversy over. Oh yeah, yes. Your last episode, I couldn't say the word formulaic.
Oh yeah.
I realised it's because you added a T into the word. You said formulatic.
Oh.
And that's why I kept trying to say formulaic, but trying to put a T in it, because I heard you put a T in it and then didn't cop that there is no T in it. It's formulaic, but you said formulatic.
I have no excuses apart from I just translated it from Portuguese and I thought it worked.
Does it have a T in Portuguese? Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. No, it's formulaic.
Formulaic.
I was like, why can't I say this word anymore? I've never had trouble with this word. Anyway, side note.
We can't talk properly.
No.
Aside from that.
So the controversy is regarding the lack of. Well, I mean, should we start with that point? I guess then.
Yes. So 6 is not very accessible. 6. The Vaudeville is not very accessible. As a theatre, there are steps to go to every level of the theatre.
Yeah, so stalls would be the
easiest
for people with mobility issues, but there are still 6 steps down from the foyer into to the stalls. Furthermore, there's only a ladies' toilet. It's not disabled access for the ladies' toilet. There are steps into that ladies' toilet, as Deborah
there are
has told
steps
me.
into it. Yes.
And if you wish to use the men's toilets, then you'd have to go up the 6 stairs back to the foyer, and then up another, I don't know,
flight of stairs,
flight of stairs to the up towards the dress circle. So there are no toilets whatsoever, and you still have to go down 6 steps even to get into the stalls at all.
Yeah.
So basically, you can't go if you use a wheelchair. Or if you, I mean, look, I know different people with different levels of mobility issues. Maybe some people could manage 6 steps, but it's going to be a faff, basically. They haven't made it easy for you, which is kind of frustrating.
I think it's one of the problems with these old theatres, isn't it? That there will be problems of sometimes you have pillars in front of seats and sometimes you have steps, and so they're not made for everyone, unfortunately.
So they have an agreement, a bit like when we talked about the Harold Pinter Theatre had an agreement with the restaurant across the road. The Vaudeville has an agreement with the Strand Hotel, if that was called,
okay,
next door. Which is in order to use so for people with mobility issues to use their toilets.
Right.
So that's their solution to that, but it doesn't answer the fact that those people with mobility issues will have had trouble getting into a seat in the first place.
Yeah.
And you still have to go back up, even if you have enough mobility to get down the 6 steps into the stalls. You then have to go back up them out of the building and into an adjacent building in order to go to the bathroom. Now, I mean, it's not going to be an issue from the purposes of time, because I mean you can be darn sure they're not going to start the performance while a patron with mobility issues who they've sent off is still away. They will wait for you. However, it's still going to be time consuming. It's going to be a faff. It's just not very pleasant. It's not giving you an optimal experience.
Yeah, I mean, I am still surprised by the fact that it is 2021 and this type of issue still arises. So
I think it was, I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was the director or the producer of 6. When she was kind of challenged on this, and she said that obviously she gave the PR move of saying they're doing everything they can, etc., etc. And I believe her. I'm sure they are. But because they talked about they were trying to sort those 6 steps basically.
Into a ramp.
That was one of the things. Apparently, they found some company in Ireland, she said, who specialised in that, and they were literally on the verge of commissioning them to come over and basically do that. But then it turned out there was some sort of fire contravention. My work does involve an enormous amount of fire compliance. So I do understand fire contraventions can be bizarre. The London Fire Brigade set the rules, and that's good, and they know better than we do, and that's fine. But I do know it can cause some bizarre issues where you're like, why can't I do this? Of course I should be able to do this, but no, it's going to cause some sort of fire contravention.
Maybe because one time something happened, and then they don't want it to happen again.
So that was the plan, to turn that into a ramp, and then the toilet situation would be what it is. They can go back up the ramp and use the Strand Hotel next door, and it's not going to be perfect, but at least they're going to have full access to facilities and full access to the show. but it hasn't happened. So they haven't got a solution as of yet. They also couldn't put in a stair lift, which was another consideration they had. So yeah, it's.
I can see how that wouldn't work that well because there isn't a lot of room.
Yeah. So if you can't go downstairs at all, or up and downstairs at all, then you cannot be a patron of the Vaudeville Theatre
On your own. You might need help, right, to do it.
Well, no, I'm saying if you cannot go up and downstairs whatsoever without a stair lift, then you can't go.
And that's terrible.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So accessibility issues, big fat X of the Vaudeville Theatre. Look, hopefully they're going to sort something out. I know Six. A lot of people were very upset, particularly because Six. I mean, this is obviously not a new issue for the Vaudeville Theatre, but Six, I think, is seen as a champion of diversity.
Yeah, and it's very much a gateway show. People will go that sometimes wouldn't have gone to the theatre to begin with and face issues that they didn't think they would face at the theatre.
Yeah, I think people are just a bit upset because the show as kind of arguably progressive as Six. I mean, Six. I know they've had the writer Toby Marlowe. He played one of the queens at one point.
Did, yeah.
So they're trying they're trying to be progressive in terms of identities and positions in society, etc. So I guess I can understand. I guess people think it's particularly egregious for a show that seems to be all about inclusivity, going to a theatre that completely excludes an entire section of our society.
Yeah, I have no idea how these things are done. I assume this is kind of a business side of it, which theatre is going to and who decides this.
There's clearly a lot of, because it's completely unnecessary for Magic to leave the Vaudeville. They easily could just have put Six into the Apollo and left. They've had an unnecessary step. So there's clearly lots of discussions between contractual negotiations, etc.
Yeah, but they clearly didn't want to transfer Six to the Apollo and then only have it there for a few months before Jamie came back.
Yeah, possibly because they're all the same. So the NIMAX theatres who manage them all. Yeah. So they obviously went to them all. Yeah, they obviously just tried to work something out in everyone's favour. Which was but regardless, look, that's where we're at now. So you cannot go see Six if you cannot go up and downstairs.
Yeah, I don't even know what to, it's so bad. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I understand why people are quite so cross about it. But look, hopefully they'll sort it out. If you are fortunate enough to be able to go to the Vaudeville Theatre, then we have the following kind of recommendations and kind of reviews of seats, I guess. As always, go to Seat Plan, check out the individual reviews from patrons and photographs of the seats, of the view from the seats. The stalls, first and foremost, we've sat in the stalls a few times in a few different places in the stalls. They're all good seats, quite frankly.
Yes, they're definitely all good. I think there are pillars at the back, but I don't think they influence your view of the stage.
There's pillars at the very back, but they are not they're in a fine position.
Yeah, they're actually on the sides rather than in the middle of the stalls, in the middle of the seats.
The stage is quite high, and we sat. Where were we for the importance of being earnest? We were like second row, maybe.
Yeah, pretty close.
And it was quite high. It was fine, I think. Basically, I would probably avoid the first row if possible, but it's not to the point. If the first row is like a tenner cheaper, and you fancy saving that tenner, then it's going to be fine. It's not egregiously high. I've seen much worse, but it's a bit high. Yeah. A little bit high. The overhang from the dress circle begins at row J, but doesn't actually affect your view into approximately row N for November.
And again, only if it's a show that has a very high set, right?
Exactly.
It might not affect you at all, depending on what you see.
So for Six, it wouldn't be an issue.
No, it wouldn't really. No,
no, it wouldn't be at all.
No,
because the set is uniform, right? You'd miss the top of the neon lights, but it's the same lighting effect all the way down throughout.
Yes, that's true.
So it's genuinely for Six, which is what's going to be in here now for the foreseeable future. The entirety of the stalls absolutely fine.
Yeah,
absolutely solid to see. Moving on to the dress circle then.
Yeah, so we actually sat in the dress circle for the first time when we went to see Constellations, and we had really good seats. We were in the middle of the dress circle, row E. And the view was fantastic. Yeah. It's close enough to the stage. The dress circle is a lot of the time the best place to sit in a theatre. And this is definitely the case here. I was really pleased with our seats.
It's very well tiered.
Very well tiered, yes. I don't think that there is a ladies' toilet in the dress circle, that, as Chris mentioned before.
Oh, no. So the stalls, there is a ladies' toilet. in the stalls.
Yeah.
There's a men's toilet for the dress circle.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to basically, if you're in the dress circle and you want to use the ladies, you gotta go down. If you are in the stalls and you want to use the men's toilets, you gotta go up.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. It's annoying.
Yeah.
But it's not too bad. We've done it. It's fine.
And there was plenty of leg room as well, so it was comfortable enough.
Also, there's no interval into 6.
No.
Or indeed Constellations. So actually, there's no interval toilet scrambling in the Vaudeville Theatre for the foreseeable future, which actually is another point to make. And I'm actually at a point that I'm very surprised that producer / director, I can't remember who it was, didn't make in her defence, which was to say that you can go before. Oh well, I know I shouldn't make it because yes, you can go to the Strand Palace beforehand, but then you still can't get into the seat. That's why. If they just got a darn ramp, it'd be fine.
Yeah, they need a ramp.
But yeah, so the other good thing about the dress circle seats is it doesn't curve whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a flat view the whole way. So you can, frankly, the very back corner of the dress circle is actually super good.
Yeah.
The boxes are on this level, and they are side facing. So sometimes you have side facing boxes, but they're kind of right next to the stage or even embedded in the stage. It's not a problem. Or alternatively, you've got boxes set further back like these ones, and they're angled. It's also fine. These ones are set further back, and they're facing, like, they're perpendicular to the stage essentially. I did actually see a woman last night struggling a little bit and kind of moving the seat around. So I haven't sat in the boxes here, but I personally, from what I've seen, I would not choose to sit there. Yeah.
Cool.
And then we have the upper circle. The best thing about the upper circle is it has both toilets.
Woo, and a bar.
You don't have to go up or down, and a bar. There's also a bar in the dress circle, which serves the dress circle and the stalls. And the upper circle has its own bar, and it has toilets catering for any people of any identification. So it's the best served.
It is the best served. Yes.
And Deborah and I kind of differ here. Actually, this is kind of, you'll have to just I suppose this is what we both have to say and to make your own decision. The upper circle, I think, is pretty fine here. We sat in the front row of the upper circle once for Lady Windermere's fan, was it? Mm-hmm. I thought so. As you guys may know, we recommend frequently that the best value for money is often the front row of the upper circle, and I think that holds true here in the vaudeville. I think the front row of the upper circle is pretty good.
Yes,
Deborah was less keen.
Yeah, so I don't disagree that it's the best value for money. I think it is the best value for money. However, I felt a bit cramped, especially when all seats are sold. So like now you're socially distanced, so there's seats between you, but there won't be soon. So I felt there wasn't enough space, and also I don't know. My neck plays up all the time, and because there's a bar, I had to kind of look underneath or above it, and I struggled with that. And maybe it wasn't that particular day for that particular performance. Yeah. Also felt a bit too far away.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do agree with, because I do have a mental image of Lady Windermere's fan, and it does feel kind of, especially considering the vaudeville only has three levels. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have a balcony. It feels kind of almost between an upper circle and a balcony.
Yeah, so
which is weird because the dress circle feels like a really low dress circle.
Yeah, so I was going to say that when we were looking into it, I was surprised that there was no balcony, because in my memory I was sitting in the balcony.
You assumed you were in the balcony.
I assumed I was in the balcony, yeah.
Yeah, so I do agree with that. It is a little bit further away than your average upper circle, but that's why I think the front row kind of compensates for that a bit, and also obviously you've got no one then in front of you. I do still think they're really good.
Yeah, they are really good, especially considering that sometimes they're so much cheaper.
Yes,
then
exactly.
That's a good one to do.
It is worth noting the edges of the front row. Well,
the edges of the front row might be a little bit like blocked, because the bar in front of it kind of goes up.
It's also rigging and stuff.
Yeah, so there's lights and stuff, so it might disturb your view. I haven't been in the edge. You haven't been either, I don't think.
But
I'm not sure how much it would bother you, but from photos we've seen, it does look that like it would. They would potentially bother you.
But you should stick in the upper circles. Try and stick central if you can. Go front row obviously if you can. I think I'd probably recommend the back of the dress circle over midway up the upper circle.
Oh, absolutely. No, I have sat not in the front row of the upper circle, and that felt very, very, very far away.
Yeah, but you can still have a good view if you're central.
Yeah.
It's just that it's just that you do feel far away. Yeah, so I would say upper circle only, front row really has a recommendation, but further back is still fine in the center.
Yeah.
Obviously just budget allowing, I guess. So that's all the seating. That's the toilets and the bars, disabled access, non-existent.
And the controversy.
And it's on the Strand, as
Yes.
implied by the fact that it's next to the Strand Hotel. Probably the best place to go. We always go to Embankment Station and walk up.
But
it's
you
very,
can go
very
to Charing
close.
Cross, or you can go to Holborn as well and walk down.
Yeah, Holborn's about a 10-minute walk,
10-minute
isn't it?
walk,
Holborn's
yeah.
on the Central Line.
And lots of buses. We decided to not look into buses because that could just go on forever.
There are too many buses. It's a very well serviced area.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's also right next door to the Adelphi, which I was excited to see last night. The Back to the Future stuff,
yeah, it's all there.
all lit up, ready to go.
Exciting.
But yes, that's the Vaudeville Theatre. Let us know if you've been or if you plan to go. Let us know what you think about the controversy.
Yes,
regarding...
come on, guys. I'm sure they can get a ramp there somehow. I'm sure they can do it.
Yeah, why can't they even put like a temporary ramp, like as in like literally
Like one that moves, yeah, like the ones you have on the train,
like the ones you have on
Yeah.
trains. If you like literally that can be, you can install a bracket in the wall which stores the ramp, and then if someone comes along who needs the ramp, you give it's like an hour-long training program to teach someone how to install the ramp safely.
I am suspicious that they will do something of the sort, especially after the response they've had.
Yeah,
I hope.
that seems like such an obvious solution. Anyway, let us know what you think, guys, of the Vaudeville Theatre and the controversy surrounding Six occupying residency there. So our final section, as always, is our Far Too Many Notes section. And today we decided that we're going to have a brief discussion about film adaptations or adaptations of musicals, because we have briefly discussed a few, or at least one. We talked about Hairspray.
We talked about Hairspray, but we also mentioned everybody's talking about Jamie
yes,
and Dear Evan Hansen, which
and
are
In the Heights.
and In the Heights as well, which you haven't seen yet.
No, it's out now, isn't it?
Yes. So all those are coming to the cinema, and there's West Side Story as well, new version of West Side Story
Steven
coming,
Spielberg's version,
which I've never seen. I've never seen the old version or this new version. So
I've actually never sat through the old version all the way through. But I have been in West Side Story.
Yeah, I quite like the dance scene at the start, because I watched that bit that you showed me of the West Side Story.
Oh yeah.
I quite enjoyed that. I don't know how I'll feel about a whole film of that. We'll see.
Well, the whole film's not that.
No, yeah.
Although
true.
actually, there's a particular musical note sequence which is used over and over again. Which so maybe it is the same thing over again.
Well, we'll see.
It's
I do like the dancing,
it's
though,
inverted it's inverted for different. It's actually, you know what? There's a YouTuber called Sideways, who you should watch if you're interested in this kind of thing. He does kind of analyses of music, full stop. But he's done a few musical films, and one of them he did was West Side Story. I actually found it very interesting. About how it was quite cleverly written. The way it's like three notes which are used basically, and they're inverted, but then Tony and Maria have none of those notes because they don't have the conflict between sharks and jets, and it's quite clever. Anyway, I know Sideways has also done a review of Cats and a full review of Les Mis.
Is he the one?
Yeah.
He's brilliant.
He does
good.
like videos explaining kind of like opera stuff, and so he's very good.
Because not only does he analyze the actual film or even the show, but he also kind of looks into the music.
Exactly.
And details of the music.
Well, his channel's about music.
Yeah.
He just happens to have done some musical theatre. But yes, it's worth checking him out for that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I mean, I've seen. Yes, you said you haven't seen West Side Story at all.
No.
I said I haven't seen the whole film the way through. We can watch it. So I've seen Hairspray. We saw recently. We saw Cats. We refused to go see Cats in the cinema because we heard how bad it was. We eventually watched it at home.
And it was worse than we thought.
We've seen the Les Mis, Phantom of the Opera. Actually, that's an old one.
Phantom. I think that's one of the first ones I've ever seen. Like apart from things like
Me too.
Sound of Music.
Yeah, or maybe
Wizard of Oz, maybe.
What's it called? The other one, Audrey Hepburn, My Fair Lady.
My Fair Lady, Mary Poppins.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
These things. Yeah.
Phantom's actually a good one. No, let me jump into Phantom actually a second.
Go for it.
Here's the reason why, because this is an unstructured discussion, as this section always is. But the reason why I jump into Phantom here is I think Phantom's actually a really, really good example of a film version of a musical working, despite the fact that some of the singers couldn't sing properly. Now, for example, what are they called? Furman and Audrey, is it? The two managers. Andre, is it? One of them's called Furman, definitely. Anyway, the two the guys that buy the opera house. One of them is played by Kieran Hines.
Oh yes,
and he can't sing, and the other one's played by, I can't. Oh, who's the one played by? Deborah's going to check it up. Look it up. But anyway, they are. The point is, Kieran Hines can't sing, and nor can the gentleman playing the other manager, and it doesn't matter for those roles, because they're comic roles. You know, their most famous song is actually the one that this section of our podcast is named after. Far Too Many Notes. The song's just called Notes, actually. But the point is, they don't. It's a comic. Like it's not. It's obviously Phantom of the Opera is an opera. This is a comic break, which is not about technical singing whatsoever. It's about comic timing and the characters being humorous, and the contents of the notes. You found the names there? Yes.
Yes. So it's Fermi and Andre. So you were correct. Yes.
Yay. I think Kieran Hines plays Furman, if I remember correctly.
Yes. And Simon Callow plays Andre, which I didn't remember. I actually have to rewatch this film. It's a very, very famous actor who does a lot of Dickens stuff and like Oscar Wilde. I've seen him doing De Profundis, the Oscar Wilde, not story, like the short story, whatever that is, like the manifesto letter, whatever that is that he wrote from jail.
Something I'm just reading in your notes, the notes you brought up there, something I never realised. I knew Minnie Driver played Carlotta. I did not realise she did not provide the singing voice.
Huh.
That's super interesting. So they did. That's weird. So this actually throws a spanner in the point I was kind of trying to make almost. So Emmy Rossum plays Kristen Dye. She was actually pretty decent, I thought. Patrick Wilson, who I've subsequently seen lots of things. I always remember being shocked by how good he is as Raoul. He does a really good Raoul. Minnie Driver I always thought was pretty good as Carlotta, but it turns out she didn't actually sing it. It was sung by Margaret Priest, apparently.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird, but they did. But so the West Side Story original film, it's different actors doing the voices and doing the singing and the acting as well.
I am mind blown.
They used to do it a lot. No, it's just because it's
just because. Okay.
Have you seen Singing in the Rain?
Yes.
That's why.
Right.
Well, the whole plot of Singing in the Rain is about exactly that.
Yeah, that's true.
They did it a lot. They did it all the time. Anyway, Gerard Butler's the big kind of question mark, right? He is not very good. In my opinion, at anything.
But he kind of works.
He does kind of work. That's the super weird thing. So he's singing kind of works. The only reason his singing doesn't really work is because Phantom's meant to be like a singing tutor.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to understand how singing works. So that's a bit of a problem. So plot wise, that's a bit of a problem. But I think Gerard Butler's performance actually lets him get away with not being a very good singer.
Yeah, no, I quite like it. I saw this before I saw the show, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too, absolutely. I was very surprised. The other way in which he really doesn't work is he's far too handsome, and the disfiguration on Phantom's face is non-existent. It's like insane.
Yes.
It's like he hasn't been using moisturizer next to his eye, and that's literally it. It's like it's ridiculously underwhelming. So Phantom doesn't work plot wise. Gerard Butler really doesn't work. As a casting choice to make sense within the plot.
But somehow it does, yeah.
But somehow his vocal performance is somehow adequate, despite being bad, or not good enough. But so it's just a very well put together adaptation, and I think it just goes to show that you can get away with suboptimal singing performances if it's surrounded by competence.
Unfortunately, now we talked about Gerard Butler singing, all I can think about is Gerard Butler singing "Go Away Girl."
Why did he sing that?
In P.S. I Love You, because he plays the Irish guy, which he isn't.
Yeah, he's Scottish, isn't he?
Yes, he's Scottish.
But yes, the that one works, right? And in my opinion, and also because they that's the other thing. They got non-singers. They presumably gave them vocal training, and then they got them to record performances, which is kind of the opposite of the Tom Hooper approach, which is to get a combination of actual singers and non-singers and make them do it live to a click track and a keyboard. which is what Les Mis and Cats is.
Yes, so what's the name of the YouTuber again?
Sideways.
Sideways. Go watch his video on Les Mis. I don't actually think there is much I can add.
No, he's
But,
kind of
go watch his
covered
video
exactly why
and
it's wrong.
you will understand why both Cats and Les Mis, the films, don't work.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. And I think it's a shame for anyone who likes those things. I think with Cats, the main problem is that it's mostly a dance show, isn't it? It's when you see it on stage.
I guess so, yeah.
There is the plot is very vague. Let's say.
It's a show and tell essentially of the different types of
there's
cats,
this
right?
contest. Yes,
Because it's based on a collection of poems, and each poem is about a particular cat.
Yeah.
So every single song is an I am song, basically.
in a way, yes. And I don't think that works in film. I don't think that works in film. Full stop. I don't think there should have been a film.
It also doesn't help that Rebel Wilson fails to sing the melody of her song and sings one of the harmony lines instead for no particular reason. And that's I really like. If I think there's one thing, if when we die we get to find the answer to one question, I want to know that. I want to know why she's singing the wrong tune.
Is that your big question? Get the answer that you want to know.
Why is she singing the harmony? Because it's meant to be a song in 3-part harmony. And instead, she sings it by herself. Well, not all of it. Sorry, sections of it are solo, and sections of it are harmonized. And the harmony section, she for some reason sings by herself, and then doesn't sing the melody.
Again, go watch Sideways.
Which makes no sense.
It's so good.
He comments on that as well. But I said it to Deborah when we were watching it live. I said she's not singing the right notes.
He
What's
did
happening?
say, yes. Cats is a very strange film. It feels like it was not ready. I know that the people working behind it, people working with special effects, I'm not even blaming them because they didn't have a lot of time. They wanted to release it for Christmas. And
yeah,
people.
all the CGI stuff is because of that. And yes, the CGI looks absolutely hilariously bad.
Yeah.
But it's not the reason that the film sucks.
But it's just, look, it's a film that has people like Judi Dench and Ian McKellen, and not even they do a good job.
No, they do a very poor job. There's like when Ian McKellen's singing his song as Gus the Theatre Cat, which he kind of half speaks, which is fine because Gus often is meant to be very old, and he often half speaks it. But there's an oboe you can hear, and you can hear the player literally struggling to, because what's happened is they've done it backwards, right? So they've recorded their vocals, and then the orchestra recorded this afterwards. To their vocals, and that's the opposite to the way it's meant to be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you can literally, the oboe, you can literally hear trying to struggling to work with him.
I feel for that person.
It's just so bad. But I also want the one thing you have to give one. So in that film, just looking for the name of the actor who played Munkustrap, Robbie Fairchild. He carried a lot of the weight of that show on him because Munkustrap is kind of that film. He's almost the narrator in a way. He kind of guides the audience through the show on the stage, and he kind of guides the character Victoria, who is kind of who's remodeled to be the kind of the framing device for us. He's on screen a lot, and he does a decent job. He worked really hard at his singing, his dancing, even though he wasn't perfect at it. He definitely put a lot of work into it, and he's a lot better than the rest of them as a result. And also some credit needs to be given to Skimbleshanks, who was played by Stephen McRae. And it's interesting that Stephen McRae is a dancer, not a singer.
Yeah.
And so he was better prepared to deal with the absolute cluster muck that was
put it mildly.
That was the Tom Hooper's recording choices. There's a bit which the YouTuber Sideways point. I didn't notice myself. I didn't pick up this myself. I saw it because everyone it's very obvious, but I hadn't picked up on it. He points out that he actually is literally tapping his foot to the beat at one point when he's singing, because so that he gets it right. he's tapping along to the click beat click track. So it's worth noting that the best performers in this are all the dancers. I mean, Jennifer Hudson has a perfectly fine performance of memory. It's whatever. It's alright.
Yeah, the problem is the songs, not her.
Judi Dench is like unforgivably terrible, which makes it even all the more confusing that she was actually originally going to play Deuteronomy in the original stage show.
Very strange, isn't it?
It was replaced by Brian Blessed, thankfully, because she can't. My God, she can't sing. And then they've also they also made changes to the plot where they added a song in for Victoria, which is called Beautiful. Is it called Beautiful Ghosts?
Yes, Beautiful Ghosts.
And the lyrics of it literally fly in the face of the plot of Grisabella having been cast out of the tribe, and wanting to come back in, and Grisabella also. There's also stuff that happens that is completely goes against the lyrics of her song, and how she just wants to be touched and all that. But the plot is completely messed up. They've completely destroyed the plot of the show.
It also seems to be one of those things where they don't listen to the actual lyrics, and they act different to the lyrics, which makes no sense. Because it's literally often the characters are telling you what's happening and what they're doing. It's not very difficult to just kind of do it.
Yeah, it's something I've commented on quite a few times to you, which is I can't think of an example. I can think of myself. I know I've done it, which is like I'm pretty sure I've done it. I've mentioned it even in live shows, sometimes on stage shows. Whereas
I think with Shakespeare you have mentioned it as someone said something and they were doing something completely different.
Yeah, it's like I look out upon the stars and they're like looking down at their feet or something. It's like that kind of stuff, right? And it happens in musicals, and it happens in film adaptations. It happens in this a lot, and it's really really annoying. But that's a really negative change. But then the other end of the spectrum, we have Hairspray, where we really like some of the changes they made.
Yeah, we really did. I mean, there's one of the changes we didn't like. There's a seduction scene in the film that I found completely out of place. I had never seen the stage show or the film, and I was just very confused about that scene, and that scene goes nowhere. So I was glad to see it wasn't on the stage show.
Yeah.
However, the ending of the film is very good.
Yeah, it's
better.
better.
It is better. It does something better with the actual plot, with the ending and with the message. Kind of works really well. So it can be improved upon.
Yeah. Definitely.
Which is fun to see.
I think overall, so I mean, like adaptations of film adaptations of musicals, they definitely can work. Definitely.
Yeah,
I think Phantom is a good example of that. Hairspray is a good example of that. And then older ones, obviously, like Sound of Music or Mary Poppins.
Which are just great. Yeah, Mary Poppins is great. The film is great. The original film is great. But also the stage version of Mary Poppins is such good fun.
Yeah.
It's so well done.
Such fun.
Such fun. What would you see? So if you didn't know a show, if you hadn't seen a show, would you? And there was a film of it, and you had the opportunity to go to the theater to see it. Would you see the film first, or would you wait and go to the show?
I would wait and go to the show, and here's how I can tell you that's definitely what I would do. That's intentionally what I've done with Dear Evan Hansen.
Okay.
Well, that's essentially what I've done. We've rebooked. Regular listeners will know that we had tickets to see Deborah Hansen, and we had to. It was cancelled. Obviously, we have rebooked with our friend who we were going to go see it with, and I was actually speaking to him about the film, and he says the same thing I said, which we don't want to. We're going to see the show first.
Yeah, I saw Hairspray. I saw the film first, and I wanted to see the film first because I wanted to know the music. So I'm not sure if it works for every.
No, it's the different. Yeah. I think the difference is Hairspray is kind of one of those happy-go-lucky, feel-good musicals, despite the fact that it deals with some serious issues that everyone kind of knows, and
you know where it's going.
You know where it's going. You know it's going towards a happy ending. Whereas the Dear Evan Hansen seems to be much more dramatic. It's much more of a drama piece where I don't know where it's going. Mm-hmm. And I'm very intrigued by the setup, and I want to see where it goes.
Yes.
I might end up being a bit disappointed. Maybe it doesn't go anywhere in particular. But I would like to experience the musical first because I'm intrigued by it, and I don't know anything about it, and I literally know like 2 songs from it.
Yeah, but it's interesting that these two are the ones we mentioned because Dear Evan Hansen starts as a stage show, whereas Hairspray doesn't.
Well, Hairspray is a stage show before it was a musical film.
Yes, a play first. Yeah.
So it was a non-musical film, then it was a stage musical, then it was a film musical.
It was a stage musical first.
Before it was a film, so it was a non-musical film, then a stage musical,
right?
Then a film musical.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know sometimes because sometimes things start in film and then go to stage.
Yeah, actually, Mary Poppins and music, I actually don't know which
I think Mary Poppins. I think the film came first.
Wizard of Oz, the film definitely came first.
The film definitely came first of that, yeah. And I'm sure there are others that have the film that's come first. And if that's the case, then what about Singing in the Rain?
I don't know.
Yeah, I would say.
I think it was a film first.
I think it was a film first too.
I haven't seen that yet, of course.
So maybe take it as like if it's a film first, see the film first. I don't know.
Yeah, I think see the original first, definitely.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
It's not. Yeah. It doesn't mean the original will be better.
No, it doesn't. But I think. But the thing is, the second one, the adaptation has been adapted, and therefore it's reliant almost upon the original.
How do you mean reliant?
Well, it isn't an original piece of art, and therefore it's going to like that you can tell when something's an adaptation. I find this is really well made.
I'm not sure if you can, because a lot of stuff, a
There'll
lot
be-
of films are
because
based
there'll-
on
there'll
books
be
and you don't know about it.
Because there'll be stuff like that seduction scene. And
Okay,
you'll be
but
like, why is this here?
but I don't think that's always the case.
Because there'll be
There'll be
choices made. There'll be choices made which will fly in the face of the core concept of the story or some aspect of it, which have been made which have been made to suit the new medium.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but sometimes that makes the story better rather than take away from the story. If it's not to the actual.
That's true. That's true.
end-
Like, more often than not,
product's
though.
detriment. It's a good thing.
But more often than not, I think you can tell, and I think I also think you owe it to the creator to see the original first.
It depends. They can be involved with the new version. I don't know.
Yeah, but you should still see the. I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't see the original.
I think if you have the opportunity to see both, definitely see the original first and then go to the other one. But at the same time, with musicals, sometimes I do like to know the music before I go in. So
yeah, we listen to the soundtrack, can't you, as well?
You can, you can, definitely.
I do think a positive change that we've made is that these days, with the exception of that Mini Driver thing, which I didn't realize, for the most part, we've moved on to the same person who sings and acts the part. I think that whole old tradition was very strange.
Even if they can't sing, they still sing.
Yes, well, I still think I still rather. Well,
it's better. I think it's better. Also, autotune exists, and they get autotuned.
Yeah, they do. Whether they can sing or not, they seem to get pitch corrected.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
But yeah, ultimately it's a positive change that the same person is now the same person does the whole thing now. So we've got a few coming up. We mentioned Dear Evan Hansen. It's coming up September, I think it is. We've got everyone talking about Jamie coming up. We also have In the Heights. In the Heights actually is an example of a show which I didn't like the stage performance of. And I'll be interested to see how the film adaptation potentially improves it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either. I didn't dislike it as much as you did. I don't think it was brilliant, but I enjoyed myself. I'm actually looking forward to seeing the film because I thought the trailer looked good and very colourful and very happy. So we'll see. I don't know. There's a few coming up, and there seems to be a trend of we're going back to them. Maybe musicals are popular again. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they probably. Yeah,
they're always popular, and people who seem to believe they don't like musicals seem to like Disney films, which are essentially musicals most of the time.
Yeah, 100% they are, and half of them have stage adaptations now.
That's very true.
Beauty and the Beast, Lion the King, Aladdin, Frozen. Frozen's opening up soon.
Frozen's coming soon. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely people. Yeah, everyone likes musicals.
Basically, if you think you don't, you're wrong.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would always rather see the stage version first, and I think the Tom Hooper style of recording the live doesn't work.
It does not work.
It's pretty bad.
Unless you're recording live.
Like, you've got one of the benefits of the film. Like, it's crazy. It's actually so bafflingly terrible idea, because the whole benefit of stage shows is the phenomenological aspect, the fact that it's live, right?
Yeah.
And then you lose that in a film. So rather than trying to desperately recapture that somehow by recording a live performance, which is still going to be there, then be recorded, why not take the advantage of filmmaking, where you can record it in post and do ADR?
Yeah, and I was actually even thinking, it's almost as if he didn't understand the medium he was working with.
He understands film or stage.
Not that I understand either of them, but it feels to me that you should use either medium to the best of its abilities, not abilities, but to all its most the strongest points of each should be used. Surely,
for the sake of I don't know, I guess a PR stunt thing he could announce, he decided to cripple himself and use the worst of both worlds.
That's a bit upsetting, isn't it? But I see he seems to be the only one doing this. I don't think it's a thing.
And I don't think they'll be doing it again afterwards.
Well, you say this, it might.
Cats was such a catastrophe. That was an accident. Didn't realize that, but it was so bad, right?
It was very bad, yeah.
And everyone hated it. Like no one likes it.
No.
But I think these new ones look and yeah. So we've gone through the phase. So we've gone through the phase of having actors dubbed in post. We've now gone through the phase of having the actors sing live on set, and now we seem to have finally graduated to the right way to do it. Sorry, and then we went through the Disney phase of the singers being not singing live and being auto-tuned.
Yeah.
And now, hopefully, we're going to move into the world where it should be, where they're not auto-tuned, so you get the natural sound, but they get as many takes as they want at it to get it as and the same person who is, the same actor is the same actor as the singer as well.
Well, they have been casting a lot of musical theatre actors, haven't they?
But like I mentioned when we talked about the news, I think I hear. What's his name?
Ben Platt.
Ben Platt. I think it sounds like he's been pitch corrected.
Which it doesn't need to be.
No, it's just the way they do it now. It's so frustrating. But look, these new ones, hopefully, we're finally going to hit that holy grail of musical adaptations, where it's going to be performed properly, basically. And also, start cast the right people. Stop casting James Corden and cast.
There, we said it. Just stop it.
Because he can't sing properly. Stop it. Stop casting James Corden. And cast people like Ben Platt, even though he's too old to play the role. Whatever, I don't care. I hope as long as he plays it properly.
And he originated the role as well, so I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
On Broadway.
Yeah, and I don't know any of the people. Well, actually, that's not true. I know what's his name, the guy playing Coco Chanel. Look, Richard E. Grant.
Oh yes.
I know. Apart from him, I don't know anyone in the cast of Jamie. So that's a good sign. If I don't know who they are, that means they're probably not Hollywood stunt casting. In the Heights, I know some of the cast.
But some of them were a couple of them were in Hamilton.
Yeah,
as well.
they were part of the Hamill cast. Because Lynn does like to cast his buddies.
I mean, look, can you really blame him?
Yes, of course you can.
I think most people would do the same. You see, that's why I kind of think that.
And
I understand.
Stephanie Beatriz is in it for some reason as well.
She is, yeah. And what's his
why.
name? The guy from Dexter. What's his name?
Oh, Jimmy Smits.
Yes.
I love Jimmy Smits.
Yeah, he's in it too. Which I really want to see now. And I think Rita Moreno is in it as well. She is very famous. So yeah, I think there's definitely this move, and to make it looks like musicals are getting popular again. I think maybe Hamilton did it, and now we're getting
Book of Mormon and Hamilton, I think.
Yes.
Work together to repopularize modern musicals.
I think Hamilton had a bigger impact. I understand the Book of I didn't I don't know, I didn't see Book of Mormon explode.
I don't think you lived through the Book of Mormon revelation to the same degree. Revolution, I should say. Sorry. It was as big, if not bigger.
I'm trying to think now of musicals that aren't stage shows. That are just films.
Disney films that haven't made
Disney
it.
films, yes, Disney films. The other one I can think of is La La Land, which you haven't seen.
Oh yeah. What's that one called? The one that Lady Gaga did. Star is Born.
Star is Born. Yeah, I don't particularly like La La Land. I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't think
Once
it's
is
great.
an example of a musical that started as a film. And became and actually was adapted the other way.
It was adapted the other way, and they
massively improved it.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the film, and I think there's a lot of it's very sweet and raw, but I think the stage production of Once is just perfection.
Yeah, they made some very simple and clever plot choices, fleshing out certain background characters in the stage version just to make it a more cohesive story. They also there's more songs as well.
There are more songs, and there's just got a lot to the stage show that is an improvement upon the film. Even though I love Glenn Henster, and Marketa Glover, I think they're brilliant. But I do think it's their music. Their music's on stage.
It's their music on stage. And booked by Enda Walsh.
Yes, and the Walsh, who's also very good.
But actually, you know what? It's I don't think it's a coincidence that it's the stage version is better. It's a musical, right? Live music is always better.
Yeah.
Right, and I think film musicals are always going to lose something as a result, and I think that's why they often seem a bit underwhelming. You don't have that. There is a huge difference, I think, between seeing it in a film theater versus at home. I remember when we saw Phantom in the theater, the surround sound of the music theater, the actual venue was really, really,
Oh, of course,
really
yeah.
helped, particularly at the start. When the chandelier goes up, when you go back in time, the actual Phantom of the Opera theme plays and surround sound all around you. It sounds really good. That obviously you lose that at home unless you have a surround sound system. And even then, it's not going to be a surround sound system of the same quality.
Yeah, I guess what we have to remember is that films are made to be seen in the cinema. And
Yeah,
maybe this
that's
is
the thing.
changing. Maybe this is changing now. Maybe from now on, since a lot of things are being released to streaming services, maybe it will start to change, but not as yet. So
Yeah.
at the moment, they're still meant to be seen in the cinema, and I think we do lose somewhat. And I know people who would say that you are losing out from not going to the cinema to see things because they're definitely made for that venue. A bit like oh, we don't really take as much from a show, from a play that's been filmed.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
it's not where you should like you. And there's also like it's the whole ceremony of going to this place to see it. There's a little bit more reverence.
Ritual.
There's a ritual to it. Maybe you'll put your phone away if you're a good person. There's lots of little details that you won't do at home, because at home people like you might get knocks on the door, you might get calls, you might get distracted by something, which won't happen when you actually go out of your way to consume these pieces of art.
But I think film versions of musicals have definitely gone through many phases, many troubled phases. And I do think, I am hopeful that maybe, we are about to enter, especially with these three now upcoming ones. I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that we're about to enter kind of a golden age of musical theatre films.
Yes, and it'll also satisfy my wish to see these things whenever, because it's not the same, as I said, not the same as having a recorded version of the production, but having a film version that's been specifically adapted is something that I can rewatch over and over.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel we could keep talking about this. I feel we could keep talking about this topic for another hour probably. But in the interest of the fact that it's now our longest episode,
Well, we said it was going to be a short episode to ourselves before we started recording this.
I think we should probably wrap it up there. But let us know what you guys think of film adaptations or adaptations.
Or just film musicals.
Yeah.
Musical films. Not few musicals.
Let us know what you think, and we might talk about this again in a future episode.
Yeah, there's definitely a part 2 there somewhere.
Especially, I think it's definitely part 2, especially after we've seen everyone's talking about Jamie in the Heights and Dear Evan Hansen, and see if we have indeed entered this golden age. Especially if they don't use pitch correction, that'd be great. But yeah, let us know what you guys think on restricted.view on Instagram, and we may well revisit this one in the future.
So that is all for today, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed our rambles and our reviews and our news and tips. And we'll be back with more next week.
Yes, hopefully if we manage to get to see our show, we'll have another review for you. If not, we'll have a list. But thank you again. As I said, it's the longest one yet. So thank you very much for sticking with us the whole way. We promise they won't get longer than this.
Yeah, so we hope you guys have a good week, and you will hear us next time.
See more shows.